Welcome to the Parenting with Confidence podcast. I am your host, Teresa Alexander Inman, board certified behavior analyst and infant toddler developmental specialist. Today, I am honored to have with us Anna Maria DiDio. And I didn't even ask you about pronouncing your last name, so I hope I did it correctly.
DiDio.
DiDio.
Yes.
Okay. Sorry about that. Like I told you, we just do this. So Anna Maria is an author and adoptive mother. She captures the joy, pain, and heartache and heartwarming emotions of the adoption journey in her memoirs and children's books. She also has a master's in social work, and oh, sorry, excuse me. And she actually has created books, a set of life books, you call them, L.I.F.E Adventures, that I guess life stands for something.
Yes.
Because of the way you have it positioned. And what would life stand for?
Love inspires families everywhere.
Oh, that is beautiful. Nice. So thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me.
It's my absolute pleasure, ma'am. So we're going to talk about your journey and just how can parents help their children? So basically, what how should I ask you this? Because I know adoption is difficult.
Yes.
And
yeah. Well, all adoption begins with trauma. I mean, it's separation and loss for the child. And I don't think we're focused on that enough. Certainly I didn't appreciate the significance of that. We adopted an older child, a 6-year-old child, 7 by the time she started to live with us. And I don't know if I fully understood the magnitude of the trauma aspects of adoption. So it's been labeled primal wound. I'm not sure if you or your listeners are familiar with that term, but when a baby is separated from the mother, that's its own special trauma kind of incident. And so that's where it really begins, and it manifests itself, later in life as the child goes through life at, at different stages and different ways. And so it's I began to tell our story really through my memoir, and now the children's books.
That is beautiful. And speak to the trauma a little bit. How did you help your adoptive child through that trauma?
Well, let me just add, though, that because we were adopting from Mexico, infertility was really the start of our story. Mm-hmm. And after many years, I did have a beautiful baby girl, but we wanted to add to our family, and we decided to do that through adoption. But many years had passed, so we began to focus on older children because we were looking for a sibling for our child, and wanted that closeness. I had 2 sisters, so I wanted that for my daughter. So she grew up. She was as a baby in an orphanage in Cuernavaca, Mexico. Mm-hmm. And you have certain things in your mind when you think of an orphanage, but this was an extremely loving and kind of wonderful place. The women who cared for the children were called tias, and my daughter was very close to one of the tias. So imagine that she was there for 6 years, and then she was prepared and spoken to, and we had visited in Mexico, but I don't think she really understood what was going on, because then one day she flew to she was in Cuernavaca, Mexico, and then the next day she woke up in suburban Philadelphia. So, I mean, that was kind of a double whammy, so to speak, for her separation and loss. Yeah. And just helping her through that was just one foot in front of the other, one stage at a time. But it really, she cried for months, and it was just say the least, it was not an easy transition.
Wow, yeah, it sounds really challenging. And I can tell you, and actually I didn't realize the trauma that was associated with even fostering,
Mhm.
because my husband and I, we fostered he was 5 at the time. And I, I just thought, oh, home life, I don't know what it was like, but there was a reason for him to have been removed. So there might have been some trauma there to begin with.
Mhm.
And then you have the additional trauma, which I didn't even, like I said, think of being separated, because no matter what that family life is like, it's still your place of comfort. And then now being removed from that, I thought, oh my gosh, like it was a learning experience.
Yeah, it's not, it's, well, anyway, the after the memoir, as the years went by, and now that my two daughters are grown and wonderful, beautiful, professional women and all that, but my my goal in writing the children's books was really to open the conversation, about that behavior, about that trauma, about what a child goes through. The books are written from the point of view of the child, and the first one, it's not specifically about my daughter because she would kill me if I wrote any more about her,
Right.
because the family was it's so personal. They were not happy with the memoir. But okay, so we all got over that. But the first children's book, called Many People to Love, is about a young girl from Colombia that's adopted into a family in the U.S. And just all the difficulties of the behaviors that ensue, and all the difficulties are true life things that really happened to us, and just sort of how we dealt with them, but just to, again, open up that conversation about how difficult all of this is. In the beginning, there were so many people that said, oh, she's so lucky, it's so great that she's so lucky to be adopted by your wonderful family. And yeah, but that's the focus of that was just all wrong to me. I mean, she was doing and saying things, and of course crying, and threatening to run away, and all, her pain just became so much more evident to me as time went by. And that's what we really tried to work towards, to help her with that.
Mhm. And what could you share with us some tools that you used to help her through that process?
So, things changed, as the years went on, but we, well, first always relied on professional help. And I think I wanted to create the opportunity or the space for her to be able to say things that she couldn't say to us, to me. And that was, gaining the trust of a therapist was kind of another story. But through the years, we had relationships with different therapists, and relied on those folks. And then we also, networked with other adoptive parents and families, just to kind of get a sense what was going on in their family, how are things, and getting strategies and ideas. And then I think this was really an easy thing to do, and I'm so glad we did it. But from the get-go, we always tried to maintain that relationship with the women and the orphanage in Mexico. So it was important for her to be connected to her heritage, and we tried to do that through food, through things happening locally that were Mexican, that were we visited. We obviously went on vacation, in Mexico. Then later, she was able to do a study abroad program, and she actually went back to the orphanage and spoke there. And so we weren't really afraid of that. I mean, it's really I think it was important for her to do that. Then, as her language, as she began to reclaim that Spanish language, she lost that language pretty quickly, which was another kind of loss.
Mhm.
And as it came back, and she was went to class, as a middle schooler, then as a high schooler. She transitioned all her phone, social media and contacts to Spanish on her phone, and just really got into the rhythm of that. And we really celebrated that.
That is wonderful. So if I hear you correctly, so having her connected to where she came from was actually a big part of helping her transition and feel comfortable throughout the process.
I think so. And maybe we could have done more. Other folks have said, why on earth, why did you even try to, adopting a child from, Mexico? Do you speak Spanish? But you don't speak Spanish.
Sure.
So the staff that we dealt with there, the professionals, kind of minimized that and said, oh, the children very quickly pick up English. But again, I didn't realize the significance of that loss. And then that became a real goal for us, and a goal for her to have that language capability restored. And I really saw a difference in her once that happened. I mean, her whole sense of self and confidence, and just it was a goal achieved. So it was definitely a good thing.
Wonderful. Now, so often, and I mean, you put yourself, and I say you put you, because that was a conscious decision you made to have a child from a different country with a different culture and all of that. So parenting itself, there are inherent stressors with parenting, and you doing what you did, you and your husband doing what you did, came with additional stresses. How did you cope?
Well, first of all, we had a very strong foundation. We had about over 10 years of marriage at that point, and very successfully navigated a lot of infertility issues, which is a major stressor, on a marriage. Mm-hmm. And then our talents very naturally kind of evolved into a divide and conquer kind of thing with the girls. And he worked, locally, and I had a little bit longer commute, and we were able to, be there for school events. And he's a math professor, so he very enthusiastically helped them with their homework. We actually had to stop that after a while because homework can take on its own little battles. But we very successfully did the work together and kind of increased our communications and helped, I think, both girls kind of successfully high school, college, onto the working world. They're doing well, thank goodness.
Yes, thank goodness. And that is so beautiful. How was your daughter in the process, your biological daughter? How did she adapt to having a new sister?
Yeah, that's a really interesting question, because we, as I said at the outset here, our motivation initially was to have a sibling we wanted to add to our family and have that closeness that I had experienced with my sisters. And in the beginning, she was an only child for 8 years. Mm-hmm. And so it was a very tearful, she's getting all the attention, and she did and continued to get all the attention. And it was very difficult for her. And then on top of that, they evolved, or they were just completely two very different personalities. So in terms of temperament and things they like to do. And so it was very tough. I mean, they're not especially close, right now. I'll say I'm hoping that I see that continuing to evolve, and I hope that grows. But it was interesting. There was an appreciation. I think both of them appreciate the other, and that family dynamic definitely changed, but all for the better.
Wonderful. Thank you for sharing that, because I know it must have been a very difficult time in your lives, and you guys are champions for just going through it. So what a blessing. Now, what advice would you give to parents who want to adopt? What do you wish, because based on what you wish you had known, what would you impart to parents who are considering adoption?
Well, first, the thing that I alluded to earlier was the therapist. I mean, relying on those that are very well versed in trauma, even before the adoption happens. I think we could have done more to prepare. There was a time period where we thought we were preparing, and we had these phone calls to Mexico, but we really weren't preparing our mindset in dealing with the trauma and what those testing behaviors, what does trust mean, how to forming a relationship, and just the significant just length of time that it would take to form that. You think, oh, our love is just going to solve everything. We're going to be happy, and it's going to be wonderful. But it is a very intentional path that must be understood. So that's one thing. And then having a network of friends and maybe even other family that are supportive, and others who have gone through adoption. And then just any question that you're asked by your maybe children, your biological children, children that you adopt at any age, just being honest.
Mhm.
We always try to be honest with both of our daughters about the struggles we were having, and what we would do to change whatever was happening in the family, or what their ideas were. So that communication was just so important. And I really tried different tactics through their things were different as they evolved into teenagers, and as I said, middle schoolers and off to college. So that communication and honesty is so very important.
Absolutely, because sadly, when we don't do that, they find out later anyway, and then that diminishes the trust that they have for you.
Right.
So,
Right.
thanks, thank you.
But you think things are going to be. I remember the one back to school night that we went to very early on, and the assignment for the little second graders was to draw a poster of someone in their lives that is important to them. And so it was fall still. She had started second grade in September. So it was around October, November. And I could see all the artwork was along the hallway. And I'm like almost skipping down the hallway thinking, I'm going to see myself, she's going to be drawing me in this big poster board. So I get to her poster board, and it's not me. And it's another woman that's completely, I have no idea who it is, but she has blonde hair and she's holding a baby. And I just, and why was I so shocked? I mean, I wanted to be that important person to her. And, that was a real lesson that she is, out in the world now, observing a lot of things, and maybe intentionally, kind of putting me at arm's length. And it really took time to build that relationship.
Wow, yeah, that must have been, because I would have been shocked myself. So, what are some tips to building that relationship?
There's no time is really important. I made time, and things that I like to do. I try to include the girls. Like I think they're both, someone into food. I'll say right now, because we always took the time to, make cookies and involve them in planning the vacations. Girls like to shop. Just kind of carving out that time to do things together. Maybe watch TV, or I remember one girls from the Latin culture, when they're 15 years old, that's a very significant birthday. And we decided, even though we were not of that culture, that we would give our daughter a quinceañera birthday party. And at the time, in the beginning, she was excited. And then as the date approached, she was just, kind of bored with the whole thing. But now years later, I mean, it's a really wonderful memory for her. So I'm glad we kind of persevered with some of these things, and just really being intentional about experiences and memories, I think is important.
Absolutely. And, it makes me think of my children when, times that we vacation and places that we've been to, like, Mom, we don't want to go. And I'd have to encourage them to say, just trust me, I promise you'll be fun. And then we get there and they have the best time and don't want to leave, because often parents, well, we don't want to force them. We don't want to this. You're not forcing them, you're exposing them to
Exactly.
something. And at least, I mean, if they get there and they didn't enjoy it, you can say, listen, now you know. But if they got there and they enjoyed it, then you're
Right.
like, okay, aren't you glad that you tried something new and it
Right.
worked out? Because it really helps them open their minds, changes their mindset about trying new things.
Right. Right. That's our job as parents, no matter what. And we try to be as even Steven as possible too. That wasn't always the case, but are also carving out time with each one of them individually. But you're right. Pushing limits and exposure and all those things are really just help in the development and maturity, emotional intelligence, all those good things.
Absolutely. And thank you for mentioning spending time with each of them individually. Because I encourage parents, whether adoptive or not, spend time with your children individually. Have special Janie and mommy time and special Janie and daddy time so that, your child, first of all, feels special because you took that time. And with a child, 15 minutes feels like a lot. So it doesn't have to be an hour or 10, 2 hours. It doesn't have to be a whole day. It could just be something that's predictable that they could expect and they can rely on, and they know, hey, this is coming. So thank you for mentioning that, because that, it just underlines the importance of that.
Right. Oh yeah, you're so right. Yep. Yep. So my second book is just about to be launched, and the title is How I Wonder Where You Are. And this is the same little girl wondering about her biological family. And so even though the orphanage was loving, even though her adoptive family is loving and supportive, she still sees that she is different. She does not look like her sister. She does not look like her mother. And so she's wondering, who is out there that looks like me. And, it's kind of I was just reading about this. It's something called disenfranchised grief. And it's grief that's, not really acknowledged in society, or minimized. Oh, you have a wonderful family. You have these wonderful adoptive parents. Well, that really doesn't take away the pain of not knowing who your biological mother is. And so that's really the thought behind this next book. And again, I hope it just encourages, and that parents allow these thoughts, invite your child to wonder, that it's healthy, and ask questions, talk about it. And if there is a connection to biology, then, pursue it. And it helps kind of, tie the story together.
Wonderful. And I just want to add also too, don't take it personally. You're trying to help your child develop. And a lot of people think, well, if I introduce them to, or if I that, or if I, engage in with them wanting and exploring, wondering about their biology and, culture, will it separate us? But I think it would actually bring you closer together, because they feel trust, they feel more comfortable in the fact that
Right.
you care about their thoughts and feelings.
Right. It's proven that, the connections with biology really enhance overall, mental health and as I said, sense of self and just confidence in who they are. So it's difficult. Don't shy away from it, even though that's easy to do, easy to, why aren't I enough? But this is part of their development that, again, through my books, I hope to be able to encourage that conversation.
Wonderful. And I just want to add, it's not about you, it's about the child. So often we, oh, me, none. Yes, you're enough. However, they still want to know. And I think, wouldn't you want to know?
Exactly. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. So that will be out soon. But my website is amddio.com. The books are for sale on Amazon, the memoir and the first book. And then the second book will be later this summer, August or September, How I Wonder Where You Are.
Okay. So How I Wonder Where You Are is coming up in August or September. And give us the title of that first book again, please.
The first children's book is Many People to Love.
Beautiful. Yes. And if we come from that, right? Because, just think, loving a child also means giving them space. Loving a child, yes, you want to give them all the love and affection and hugs that you can, but sometimes, because I know sometimes with my own children, I was always, I was like, come on, give your mommy a hug, like, Mom, because I'm always doing that. And I was like, okay, I'm sorry, I had to learn to give them space as well. And I think that would also be true for any child, any, whether adoptive or foster.
Exactly. Yeah. There's all these elements kind of just weave in there, and that's it. It takes a lot of balancing, but yes, you're right.
Is there any last words you want to share before we sign off for today?
No, just thank you for giving me the opportunity to talk about these books, and I appreciate it so much.
Well, thank you for being here and sharing your experiences with us, which hopefully parents can use to help them through their process and purchase your books so they can go even deeper in helping them and their adoptive or foster children to adapt and make the experience one that's more initially successful. And I say that because the hardest times are in the beginning, and use your experiences to help them navigate through that.
That'd be great.
Yes, wonderful. Thank you, ma'am. Okay, wish you and your family all the best.
Yes, I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.